I was 13. That awkward cusp where you're too old for kiddie rides, but still small enough to slip under the radar of real danger. We lived in this forgotten slice of suburbia on the edge of town, where the manicured lawns gave way to a sprawling junkyard that everyone pretended was just an old recycling center. The air always smelled like rust and regret, especially at night when the wind carried echoes from the distant highway. My dad had ditched us 2 years back, leaving Mom to scrape by with double shifts at the diner, so I was basically feral, roaming free after sunset, as long as I checked in by midnight. That freedom was my armor, but it also made me a magnet for the shadows. It was the tail end of October, the kind of crisp Friday where the leaves crunched like brittle bones underfoot. The town was buzzing about the Harvest Haunt, a pop-up Halloween fair slapped together in the junkyard lot by some out-of-town promoters who'd probably never set foot in a place like ours. They promised spine-tingling thrills with hay rides through the scrap heaps, a funhouse mirror maze rigged from salvaged car doors, and a petting zoo of mangy goats dressed as demons. I didn't have plans, and the alternative was staring at the ceiling fan in my room, replaying the same TikToks until my eyes burned. So, I grabbed my beat-up backpack, stuffed with a water bottle, my switchblade, Mom's just-in-case gift, and a half-eaten bag of sour candies, and headed out. The fair was a fever dream under strings of flickering orange bulbs. Rusted Ferris wheel cars creaked like they were moaning for mercy, painted with grinning jack-o'-lantern faces that seemed to leer wider as the wind picked up. Cotton candy machines whirred, spinning pink clouds that dissolved into sticky webs on your fingers, and the air reeked of burnt popcorn laced with something sharper, like gasoline from the nearby heaps. A crowd of locals milled about, tired parents herding sugar-high kids, teens vaping behind the porta-potties, but it wasn't packed. Just enough bodies to feel alive. Not enough to drown out the isolation creeping in at the edges. I was midway through a rigged ring toss game, nursing a lukewarm soda, when I first clocked him. The clowns weren't part of the official lineup. They were these freelance weirdos who'd wandered in, like stray dogs sniffing out scraps. This one stood apart, though, a lanky figure in a threadbare polka-dot suit that hung off him like shed skin, the fabric mottled with grease stains that looked fresh. His makeup was a nightmare in grease paint. Chalk-white face cracked like parched earth, lips smeared into a perpetual rictus grin that pulled too tight at the corners, revealing teeth yellowed like old corn. But it was his eyes, sunken pits ringed in black, unblinking, like he'd traded his soul for that stare. He wasn't juggling or honking a horn. He was just there, perched on a stack of derelict tires near the funhouse entrance, legs dangling like a spider waiting for vibration. He didn't approach at first, just watched. I'd feel that itch at the back of my neck, turn, and there he'd be, head cocked at an impossible angle, as if listening to whispers only he could hear. Once, when I wandered too close to the hayride queue, he unfolded himself and shuffled over, silent as fog. Up close, his breath hit me, sour milk and cloves, hot against my ear. He didn't speak. Instead, he reached into his oversized lapel and pulled out a single red balloon, knotted at the end like a noose. With a flourish, he twisted it into the shape of a tiny noose. Wait, no, a balloon animal? A snake? It writhed in his gloved hands, impossibly lifelike, before he let it slither free, bouncing toward me across the gravel. I kicked it away, laughing it off to the girl next to me in line, but my stomach twisted. How does a balloon move like that? Like it's got a pulse? The fair started winding down around 10:30, announcers crackling over the speakers about last rides, folks, and the crowd thinned to stragglers. I texted my buddy Jax to meet up, but he ghosted me, probably grounded again. Fine. I'd head home the back way, cutting through the junkyard's perimeter trail, a narrow dirt path that snaked between towering piles of twisted metal and bramble-choked chain-link fences. It shaved 15 minutes off the walk and felt like an adventure, especially with the moon punching through scudding clouds like a searchlight. I zipped my hoodie against the chill, popped in my earbuds, low volume, safety first, and cranked some lo-fi beats to drown out the rustling leaves. That's when the whispers started. Not in my music. At first, I thought it was bleed from the fair, distant laughter echoing off the scrap. But no, they slithered in clear, a chorus of giggles layered over each other, high and jagged like glass shattering in slow motion. I yanked the buds out, heart kicking up. The path was empty, flanked by shadows that seemed to lean in, the junkyard's hulks groaning in the breeze. Footsteps? Nah, just paranoia. I picked up pace, gravel crunching under my sneakers, the candy in my backpack shifting like bones in a rattle. Then, a pop. Sharp, pneumatic. I froze. 20 feet ahead, bobbing against a fence post, was that damn balloon snake, deflated now, limp and accusing, its twisted body glistening wet under the moonlight. How? I hadn't seen it follow. My skin prickled. I glanced back, and there he was. The clown. Emerging from a gap in the chain link like he'd been birthed from the dark, his silhouette elongated, arms swinging loose at his sides. He didn't run, just matched my stride, deliberate, that grin splitting wider as if it could swallow the night. Panic lit my veins like lighter fluid. I bolted, backpack thumping against my spine, switchblade forgotten in the zip of adrenaline. The path twisted through a gauntlet of rusted relics. Gutted car frames like skeletal beasts, their headlights shattered, eyes staring blind. Branches clawed at my face, drawing hot lines of blood, but I didn't stop. Behind me, the giggles swelled into a cackle, tripling, quadrupling. Wait, were there more? Footfalls multiplied, a patter of bare soles on dirt, closing the gap with unnatural speed. I risked a look. Not one clown, but three. Identical. Grins like gashes, eyes like voids, polka dot suits fluttering like moth wings. They moved in sync, a grotesque conga line, one twirling that balloon rope like a lasso, another dragging a prop pie tin that clanged with each step. Filled with what? Teeth. Shards? My house was a half-mile sprint away, past the final hill where the trail spat you onto our cul-de-sac. Lungs screaming, legs jelly, I crested it just as headlights sliced the gloom. A neighbor's pickup rumbling home late from the mill. I flung myself into the beam, waving like a madman, voice shredding into a howl. Help. There, clowns, following. The truck screeched, tires biting gravel, and the driver, a grizzled vet named Mr. Harlan, leaped out with a tire iron already in hand. I collapsed against his fender, gasping, pointing back at the trail. Nothing. Just wind-whipped shadows and that balloon, snagged on a thorn bush, pulsing faintly like a heartbeat before it burst with a wet smack. Harlan swept the beam of his flashlight over the emptiness, muttering about damn kids on bath salts. But he walked me home anyway, radioing the cops on his dash cam. They came, poked around the junkyard till dawn, found zip. Except a smear of grease paint on a fence post, shaped like a thumbprint too big for any man. I never told Mom the full truth. Said I tripped running from some drunks at the fair, showed her the scratches as proof. She bought it, patched me up with peroxide and a lecture on sticking to lit streets. But that night, barricaded in my room with every light blazing, I heard them outside my window. Not footsteps. Giggles. Faint, synchronized, seeping through the glass like smoke. And in the corner of my eye, a flicker, a red balloon, untied, floating lazy circles in the dark. It's been weeks now, and the harvest haunt's long gone, the lot bulldozed back to rust. But I don't go out after dark anymore. Not even for the stars. Last Tuesday, Jax finally texted back. Dude, saw your story on the local sub. You weren't the only one. That clown crew. They're back next month. Winter Whales. You coming? I deleted the thread, blocked him. Because here's the twist that keeps me up. When Harlan shone that light, for a split second, I saw my reflection in the truck's side mirror. And behind me, in the glass, my own grin, cracked white, eyes ring black, staring back. Waiting.